You just got invited to a new table. You've got your character sheet in hand and you are ready to go on a new adventure. The only problem is, you're the newbie there and everybody seems to have a rapport. They joke back and forth and they don't really give you much room edgewise to hop on in. In fact, nothing you do seems to register, and anything that you do say gets turned into a joke or just ignored in general. You're not gonna have fun at this table. I know it and you know it. And the reason is because this table is not very welcoming to you. What this video is about is it's making sure that as a GM, you set the plate to make your table as welcoming as possible. Now, everything that I'm going to tell you here is by far the minimum. There's so much more that you can do to make your table welcoming, but this is going to be a good start. So, let's get into it. As a GM, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is make sure that you always have an eye on your players. Keep an eye on your players and make sure that they all have a chance to shine. And you need to recognize that there are some people that are naturally quiet, and so you need to find ways to accommodate them by giving them ample opportunities to have their voice heard in game. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I believe are 3 of the most common types of quiet players. Because it's not just that they're quiet, but we also need to take a look into why they're quiet. So, I've given them nicknames because that helps me think, but let's get into it. So, the 3 quiet players that I've recognized in game. We have the meta actors. These are players who take time to discover who their character is. They don't start the journey knowing who they are, but rather they let their experiences help form the character. And so they'll be quiet until they understand who they are. These are the people that develop their accent as the game goes on, or these are people who will build on in-world jokes to help them develop the characters. These people just need time. Then there are them a few words. Folks who don't say a lot, but when they do say something, it usually hits. Now, I can think of a few people off the top of my head that I've played with that fit this category. They don't talk a lot, but when they speak, it can be game-changing. And so, you have to keep them in mind as well. And finally, you've got your newbies. You've got people who are just new to the table and new to the hobby and don't quite know what they're doing. You have to understand, this hobby is silly. We're playing make-believe, we're putting on accents, sometimes we're putting on costumes, and we're being someone else. This is something that isn't really done day to day. And it takes a while for these players to understand that it's accepted here. And that's why having a welcoming table is so important. Because we want people's first experience in TTRPG to be a magic one, because we know this hobby is magical. If I say that I am a powerful sorceress, that's only half of it. The other half is the rest of the table acknowledging this reality as reality and living in the world with it. So that's what we need to encourage for our newbies. Let them go off the deep end, create something, and then show them the comfort of accepting that. Now, I've showed you the 3 different types of quiet players, but I haven't given you the remedy yet. How do you help these people feel more comfortable at your table? Well, I believe that the solution is the same for all 3. You need to make sure that they have every opportunity to express themselves. You need to make sure that if they have something to say, that it is recognized, heard, acknowledged, and integrated into the world. Now, one of my favorite tricks to do this is with combat. If you are to, let's say you were to shoot an Eldritch Blast, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like, and how do you draw this power from your patron? The answer can be as short or as long as the player is comfortable with, but giving them the opportunity to express that part of their characters is helping getting them used to speaking. Because that's all this is. That's all TTRPG is. It's me speaking to you, you speaking to me, and us acknowledging what we say. That's it. So, now we've got our newbies talking. They're a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident in saying what they feel, what they think. Now what we need to do is be on the lookout for something that I have seen from tables filled with rookies to veterans, from casual hobbyists to people that get paid to do this. We need to be on the lookout for negging. So negging is negging is where you pepper someone with negative comments. Sometimes people do this when they play antisocial characters or smarmy characters or characters that are supposed to be the smartest in the party, so on and so forth. And the reason that we need to be on the lookout for that is because as experienced role players, we have built up a thick skin and we can generally tell when a comment is at us versus when a comment is at our character. Now, if this is someone that's new to role-playing or just someone new to our table, we need to make sure that they're protected. One of the most important things to remember is that what's required for a group joke to be a group joke is that everyone has to be in on it equally, and no one is made to feel lesser for that joke. This is where the onus is really going to be put on the GM to step in and make sure that everyone is on the same page. When you do this, I personally like to make sure that it's done visibly and sternly, but also check in individually as well. It's very important to be on the lookout and to create a space where that player knows that the GM is more interested in protecting them than protecting a joke. Because I have been on the business end of people being more interested in preserving a joke than my feelings, and that sucks. Now, there are ways to deal with one person doing a whole lot of negging, and that's to make sure that they are humbled in the story, or that the target of their negging is given a chance to rise above, thwart the negging by giving them a chance to have a hero moment, because that's why we're all in this, for those hero moments. Now, this is something that I learned from experience, so you don't have to. If that is your plan, is to give that player a chance to rise above the negging, make sure that it's done via dialogue or character choice and not dice, because, well, sometimes the dice don't agree with your GM plans. So, also, you want to make sure that one player is not being ganged up on, and that's just in general. Doesn't matter if they're new, doesn't matter if they're new to the table. Just make sure that for whatever reason somebody's getting it from all sides, that you check in and make sure that all parties involved are okay. Now, this tends to happen when discussing character motivation. Discussing character motives are a fun part of the game. It's honestly one of my favorite parts because it allows you to pull the curtain back and kind of show the inner workings of this character that you've been playing. Who doesn't love doing that? But it's key that when you are discussing character motives, or at least this is something that I have been trying to get into the habit of doing, I like to make sure that I use I feel statements rather than saying something like your character's motives were this. Because if I'm not playing your character, I can't tell you what your motives were. And having someone try and tell you what your character's motives are, it can feel as though your agency is being removed. And that's something that we want to make sure that we avoid. Again, this is how we make sure that our table is welcoming. If you feel that somebody's character's motives were this way or that way, then that's how you can present it. But never tell somebody what they did, because there are things that you might not understand about their character's decision. It's all about making sure that we respect everyone's agency, that we respect everyone in general, and that we have a good time. No one is more powerful at the table than anybody else. This is a collaborative effort. And we need to make sure that newbies or people that are new to the table don't feel like they don't have any power in any step of this. All right. So next we have keeping a tether on your scene snatchers. Now, I will go into a definition of what a scene snatcher is. These are people that have a hard time telling where the camera is. This may be because of excitement, because of social awkwardness, or just difficulty with empathy. But regardless of the reason, scene stealers can be a problem when it comes to making sure that your table is welcoming. I mean, if I'm new to the table and I want to have a moment, but I can't get my foot in edgewise, I'm probably not going to want to come back. Now, what exactly is a scene stealer? Well, if your character has ever gone off to do something in secret, or just went to pray to your god or your patron, and someone made sure to follow, spy, or inject themselves into the narrative in a way that is disruptive to what you were attempting, then you're dealing with a scene stealer, especially if this is a behavior that is consistent. Now, as a GM, it's key to notice these sorts of interactions and the effect that they have on your table. It's up to you to find either clever ways to resolve the issue, or, as always, have a conversation with that player. Because again, direct communication is the most effective way to make sure that your table is safe and welcoming. And speaking of safe, the most important thing you could do to make sure that your table is welcome is to make sure that you have safety tools at the table. Make sure they're known, memorized, and utilized in a fashion that everyone is comfortable with. This is the big one, guys. This is the really, really, really big one. Safety tools are your seatbelts, and the presence of these safety tools can give your players, especially new players, a feeling of control and an option to get away from things that they don't want to encounter, and that's powerful. Look, we all live different lives, and while there are some things that I personally believe should never be in games, sexual assault, racism, homophobia, transphobia, gaslighting, basically all your phobiasms, there are other things that you don't know bother other players as a GM, and that's what these tools are for. Alright, some people may be scared of needles or spiders or blue by Eiffel 65. It's not for us to judge, it's for us to curate and make sure that everybody's protected. Okay, so these are your basic steps for making sure that your table is welcoming. Again, like I said, these are the minimum steps that you can take. Alright, there's so much more that you can do to make sure that your table is welcoming. And the secret is, the more you do to make sure that your table is welcoming, generally the better a game you're going to have. The better the experience for each player, the more agency that you can trust them to have, then the better the story, because they'll be able to surprise you because they're open and safe and comfortable enough to do things that you would never imagine. That's the beauty of collaborative storytelling. And if the cost is just making sure that we put in a little bit of effort so that everybody can feel safe, comfortable, and vulnerable, then it's well worth it. I hope that you can take these tools and make your game just a little bit better and a little bit safer. And I hope you have a great day. I've been Noir. I should probably come up with a sign off. I'll get to that. Bye.
And when I leave, come together like butt cheeks.